So, welcome back to another episode of John the PM, where we believe that managing projects is not just a job, but a way of life. You might notice that my backdrop is a little bit different today. The reason why is because I am on travel. I am traveling to customer site to deliver another outstanding seminar to a group that are super high energy and are super motivated to really hone their skill sets in the art of managing projects. And I am so proud to be here with them. So, just so you know, we do classes, consult, and then coaching, on all parts of managing projects and things of that nature. We'll either go to client site or the clients will come to Virginia Beach and be with us, or we'll do it by virtual, whatever may be the case. So the topic for today is what are some study tips for passing the PMP exam? And I'm going to give you 3 tips to consider. In short order, the first tip is to live it. The second tip is to be a mentor. And the third tip is take quizzes after you've taken the class. So this is what I'm telling my class literally in real time. After each point, we kind of go through all the materials and things of that nature. And to be quite honest, it sometimes gets a little bit overwhelming. I mean, after all, we go through 5 process groups, 10 knowledge areas. We go through 49 processes, review some over 300 inputs, tools, techniques, and outputs. And that is quite a bit. Now, honestly, not any one part of it's that challenging. Not when you think about it, not when you look at it, to be honest. However, it's the multiplicity, it's the amount of information that is provided that can sometimes overwhelm. Now, I don't know why, but occasionally, actually a little bit more than occasionally, but people will try to memorize everything. And honestly, unless you have a photographic memory, you're just going to cause yourself a lot of frustration. And to be quite honest, you're going to cause me a lot of frustration as well on those pieces. So what I suggest to people is to actually live the material. Now, in full disclosure, there are going to be some things that is much easier to memorize just because, on those pieces. So, for example, I would tell people just go ahead and memorize the cost of quality model, the cost of conformance, cost of non-conformance, under the cost of conformance, preventive appraisal, under the cost of non-conformance, internal, external, and then all the pieces that are up under. It's just sometimes easier to memorize certain key pieces. But even on that amount, I can probably count on less than two hands about the amount of information that you really, I feel, need to have committed to rote memory. The rest of the material, like almost all of it, I would prefer that people lived it. Now, what do I mean by lived it? In other words, especially during your independent study or even in class, is to think of a time when you've actually used it. And the more that you think of the time that you actually used it, and then when you're outside of class, you're actually using it, the more comfortable it becomes. And then it becomes second nature. And you're not really fighting anything, but in fact, you're becoming one with it. So that's going to be the very, very first tip, is to live it. Actually, that should not be any surprise because of the tagline that I start these sessions off with. Remember, this is not a job, but a way of life. So again, I would just encourage you to live the material. The second tip is to be a mentor. What do I mean by being a mentor? On the test, what I would ask you to do, the role I would ask you to assume, is to pretend that you have a niece or nephew on the opposite side of the country. I happen to live in Virginia, so in this case, on the western coast. I have a niece or nephew there. I like them. I love them. I'm assuming that you like and love your niece. And they come and ask you a question. They say, hey, auntie, hey, unc, what would you do in this particular case? Now, the one thing that you really honestly can't do is tell them specifically what to do. Why? Because you don't know their exact work environment. You don't have enough details. So what you have to do is provide or guidance or thoughts, points of consideration in general. not very, very specific. So when you're looking at the PMP exam, a lot of times people, what they will do is that they will put themselves too much into it. And they will answer the question in accordance to their organization's policies and procedures, which might actually be good. I'm not saying they're good. I'm not saying they're bad either. I'm just saying they are what they are. But more likely, they were kind of based on some past precedents or something that occurred in an organizational history that guided them to doing it a certain way. That is all fine and dandy, no issues, no concern. But that is for that specific organization. And when you look at the PMP exam, remember people from all across the country, all across the world, from all different types of industry are going to be essentially having the same exam. So you can't answer it how you would answer it, but really how the masses would answer it. So again, tip number 2, especially on the exam, act as a mentor. Tip number 3, after you take the class, what I want you to do is to take quizzes. Quiz, 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 quiz. And let the quizzes, let the questions guide your study. Now, with my students in particular, I can talk to my students a little bit easier. I've already given you a lot of information. Typical program for us is about 2 weeks. So that's just a lot of information that we are together with and providing, for you, for your piece. Sometimes I will hear people say, well, John, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back home and I'm going to study everything. And I say, whoa, don't do that. That is challenging. What you ought to do is just take quizzes. Now, in my classes, in my courses, we do have a learning management system. We encourage people to use it. The reason why is so that we can kind of see how you're doing. If you have any questions, you can give us a call, text us, email us. The closer that you are to the exam, the faster I expect you to just reach out. And we're just going to answer questions in real time. One of the reasons why I kind of set it up that way was because it's just way too much information, too much, material to know in one setting. So this gives people an opportunity to actually learn the material, understand it, and be well suited for the exam. So the third tip, just in summary, is to make sure that you just take those quizzes. Again, if you're in one of my classes, we're going to give you enough quiz questions that you will have more than enough. On those pieces, I assure you. In fact, on our learning management system, again, if you take our class, you will find that we'll have, flashcards, we'll have games for you, we'll have, all the material that, in fact, the way I look at it is that if you need it, we probably had it. After all, I've been doing this for over 10 years, so I have a very, very good storage-based database of information for students. So again, it's really not an issue, on that part. Okay, so just in summary, 3 things that I like for you to do, 3 tips for the exam. The first one is just simply live it. The second one, act as a mentor. The third one is take quizzes. All right, so this kind of wraps it up with this episode of John the PM, where we believe that managing projects is not just a job, but a way of life. If you like this episode, please hit the like button below. Our staff and me will greatly appreciate it. It helps us to be of service to you. Have a great, awesome day, and look forward to seeing you again.